What are these things? What do they do? And why do we need them? So let's get on with it and find out all about these little things. So this is a little shock arrestor or a mini expansion vessel. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the board and I'm going to explain why we need these and where we need to fit them. Come on then, we're getting on with it. Now what we have here is a combination boiler. So we've got the cold mains coming into the plate, coming out of the plate and to the hot tap. Now installed on our cold water mains is the water meter and a single check valve. So the water is coming in to the plate and then gets heated by the boiler heat exchanger, which then comes out through the hot tap. Now this can cause problems if this tap here is a lever valve, you know, a quarter turn tap. So if somebody slams that valve quickly, what can happen is it can send shock waves back through the boiler and then down through the pipe. Now because of the single check valve, and the reason why we've got a single check valve in there is because under the water regs we can't have fluid category 1 water mixing with fluid category 2. So if we have the water expanding back up the cold mains, we don't want to get back into the drinking water. So that's why we have a single check valve, not a double one. So that's a big problem if the boiler's components inside are made of plastic. Well, they don't really like it being called plastic, do they? They like to call it composite. So we get different pressures and we get different temperatures due to this valve closing. So what happens is, when that valve closes, because the momentum of the water is going this way and you close it quickly, it sends the shock back, but it actually creates a vacuum. So the plastic inside here is expanding and contracting, expanding and contracting. So when it finds a weak point, it'll crack. And I think a lot of us know about the problems Worcester have on the left-hand side hydroblock, where it always gets a pinhole and starts leaking. And they say that's mainly because there isn't any way of getting rid of the extra heat or the pressure. Because we can create a lot of heat in that plate to plate with things like preheat systems. So if we preheat the plate so we don't get this big lag of cold water coming through, that can create its own pressures and own problems. So the way the manufacturers will say this, and technically you only need to fit these if it's a plastic hydroblock, but if you do have things like water hammer, because this can create water hammer as well, because of the flow of the water going backwards and forwards, it can create a vibration. So if your pipes are not clipped properly, you'll get a vibration coming through there. Also, if you've got things like flexible hoses on copper pipe going to toilets and wash basins and kitchen sinks, then again you're going to get the copper pipe vibrating. So you can either fix the pipework to stop that water hammer, but if you've got a combi boiler with composite components, then we might need to fit the little shock arrestor. So where do we fit it? Well, we're fitting it here, as close as we can to the boiler. So we need to put a T in, and then put our mini expansion vessel or mini shock arrestor in there. So on this side here we have air, and obviously on this side here we've got water. Now we can't compress the water, but we can compress the air. So if we do get any heat coming back down this way, so we get hot water coming back down here, that will then expand up, the diaphragm will move, and this mini shock arrestor expansion vessel will take up the expansion of the water through heat. Because water will expand by 4% of its volume from 4 degrees C up to 100 degrees C. So that's one of the things it does. The other thing is as well, because of the actual shock, the thermal shock, it can make the diaphragm work as well. So it's kind of doing two jobs. It's taking up the expansion of the hot water and also take up the expansion of the thermal shock due to the single check valve. Now, technically, you might see that if this pipe is longer than 3 meters, that might be enough pipe to be able to take up this expansion or thermal shock. But most boiler manufacturers say we need the mini shock arrestor if we've got this composite. Also, if this on this end here is a mixer shower, the mixer shower will need non-return valves to stop the vacuum as well. Because it's not just the pressure, it's also the vacuum what's created by opening and closing the valve quickly because of the flow, the velocity of the water. So you could get big variations within inside this boiler, which is making these composite components break. Now, a couple of things about the shock arrestor is this one is pre-charged at 2 bar. Now, between 1 and 2 bar is average for these shock arrestors, and also it says on here it's got a butyl membrane. Now, the reason for the butyl membrane is it has to be able to be acceptable for drinking water, because this is fluid category 1 coming in here and fluid category 2 coming out here. So it needs to have the right membrane in there. And that's another reason why they have to be made out of stainless steel. So they don't create corrosion, so you've not got any corrosion in the pipework because it's drinking water. So no steel, they have to be stainless steel. So that's basically what these little things are for. And if you see them on boilers, that's what they're there for. Now, they're dead easy to check as well. So you just undo the cap. It's just a dust cap. And this has got like your bike tyre has in your car tyre. It's got a Schrader valve in there. So you can put on a pump and check the pressure. But obviously, if this says it's pre-charged to 2 bar, you can't have any pressure within the system to be able to check that properly. So you would have to get rid of all the pressure, then check it. Because if you've got any pressure on there, which is typically could be 1.5 bar in there, could go up to 30 bar, depending on where you are. Now, if you did that, then you would be putting a pressure reducing valve in there. But that's the average between 1.5 and 2 bar pressure you've got flying through your pipes. So hopefully that's explained how these little miniature shock arrestors work and why you're starting to see a lot of them on boilers, because most of the major boiler manufacturers now are changed from brass hydroblocks to these composite plastic hydroblocks. They hate the word plastic, don't they? They love the word composite. So, hope that helps, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.